thanks for this opportunity. So I'm thanking Professor Gopinath and Dr. Dinesh. So first, I'll just give a brief outline about our research. So before that, so it was written by Professor Dr. Vichitra and myself. So just recently I completed. So right now I'm associated with Aditya Birla. So right now on behalf of her, I came to present that. So our so topic is it's more about how petrol and diesel buses transition into so electric buses. Specifically, we took the country region as a Europe region. I'll say the reason for the same. And we are evaluating the influence of CO2 emissions. So because of the increase in so electric buses. So that is the overall thing. So before going for that introduction, so I'm just giving the outline. Like what we did is, so we took the in Europe region. So we took the increase in electric public buses and studied correlated with the CO2 emission during the same period. So and based on that, we studied something and we given some policy recommendations on the same. For giving the introduction, I just took the recent incident which happened, so which is a COP28 Conference of Parties 28 which happened in Dubai. So that, so the major thing is by 2050, so the globe should be net zero. Emissions, there is a net zero carbon emission should be there, and also they should be preventing 1.5 degree increase in the temperatures. There is a global temperature. So that's two things. So based on that, so definitely the major role will be played by the electric vehicles there. So now here we took the Europe region, especially for public buses. What is the reason we took it as a Europe region is, so we thought of giving some data, but in morning when the conference happened, so Teresa ma'am given one point, so I'm just trying to quote that as a correlate that. So she told like in Europe, there is most of the people willing to go to the public transport rather than using their personal vehicle. So that is the main reason we focused on Europe, because in Western European countries and specifically Europe, so the public is now adopting to the public transport. So now that is the reason we took that. Now this is the Europe CO2 emission in the Europe scenario we studied. So from 1990 we studied that scenario. So if you see the scenario, so overall energy production, industrial process, whatever the scenario you took, there is a decrease in CO2 emission, but only in one sector it is increasing. That sector is the transportation sector. So that is the thing we took that transportation sector in particular. Now what is the research gap we saw is, I'll just take one example here. For example, you will be thinking that whenever there is an electric vehicle so when you are charging that, there will be zero emission. What happening actually at the time is, in tail end there is zero emissions. But what will happen is, for charging the car there will be production of electricity, right? So how we are producing the electricity also matters there. So there will be a tailpipe emissions will be zero because of the electric vehicle. So urban level it will be less emission. But what will happen is, how the electricity is produced also matter. That means so they'll be charging the electric car here, but they will be producing that electricity further through coal or some other non-renewable energy. So that what will happen, there will be more emission this side, but there will be a reduction in emission there. So there will be totally there will be not reduction in emission. So that is one of the point we need to look into that. So in our research we incorporated that point also. So that is the thing. So these are the research question. So we incorporated what are the things outcome, what are the things we like to see. So with the public adopt to it, like how CO2 emissions will be affected in a localized level, in the overall European region level. So what are the policy measures we studied? So then we studied the quantitative relationship, that is the correlation between these two we studied. So these are the objectives. So the final objective will be to examine the impact of CO2 emission because of increase in commercial electric vehicle, especially the buses, public transports in Europe region. So these are the methodology we used, descriptive, secondary. We took a secondary data. So what are the observation we took is, we took the past 13 years of CO2 emission data, so from a IEA. So that is that data we took already from the report of International Energy Agency. So the buses data we collected from the all the there is a major buses data that is published there. So we in all European Commission websites. So that from that we individually collected. Based on that we collected the data and we studied that observation tools. We used the regression and correlations. So these are the results we got. So the correlations result we got is a minus 0.79. So which means to say that, like, for whenever there is an increase in electric buses, whenever there is an increase in the electric buses, there is a decrease, when there is a decrease in the CO2 emissions. So this is the, we took it for past 13 years. The reason I will be saying for the past 13 years because before that, like, you know, before 13 years, there will be not much increase in the EV vehicle, especially public transport. The EV vehicle, it's a kind of recent phenomena, most likely after 2013-14. So that is the reason we took that. So the policy recommendation, as I already mentioned, so the charging infrastructure, that is how we are producing energy for the charging infrastructure matters. So the government should be concentrating more on, just not on the tail end emission, they should be focusing on how the energy is produced. For this recommendation, we took a data here. So for example, for producing some amount of energy, so how much of carbon dioxide emissions will be happening? For example, biomass will be emitting more carbon dioxide, so that wind will be the least, solar will be this much carbon dioxide emission, nuclear will be this much. So government should be moving towards the last part of the end. For example, we can say nuclear, solar, wind, hydro, because the carbon dioxide emission levels it will be so less. So that's how we can move on. Since it is a European country, there is one more energy, there is a geothermal energy. The geothermal energy also will be in the last level. Since we couldn't able to capture the data of the geothermal, we ignored that. So as of now, we captured the data. So from this, so these data are captured from captured based on our research happened in our college campus, that is PhD Technology Coimbatore. So this research is not done by us, but from various research. So we gathered the data, so and we incorporated into it. So these are the part of the various research data. So that is something. So now that EV forecast, then there should be we included what are the subsidies, policy support, how the policy support can be incorporated also included in the research report. And then in future, what will be happening is, so you see, wind and all, you can, that kind of wind, solar energy is a renewable energy which can be sustained for long term. But when you are going to electric vehicles, what is the issue we will be facing is that battery producing material is not abundant in nature. It's kind of very limited. So how we are going to incorporate that battery technologies, how we are going to evolve over that, that is also, the government should be considering it, that efficiency is so important. So that is the thing. So the path dependence, in a short I'll say it's a very big thing. So I'll just say in a very short form. That is how publics are going to adopt it. So what are the drawbacks we'll be having in electric vehicle usage? For example, there will be something called a range anxiety, and also in EV vehicles, let's say we are traveling from Hyderabad to Bangalore, so we can go in a single stretch if it is IC EV, but in EV vehicles, we can't go in a public transport like that because there is something called range anxiety. So we can't incorporate such range. We couldn't evolve a technology like where the range will be 800 kilometers or 1000 kilometers for our buses. So there will be that path dependence, how we are going to solve that issues. So for that, European countries adopted something called hub and spoke model. So where all the buses will be coming to one point. From that, again the buses will go there. But in India, so it's even we couldn't able to incorporate that. We studied on that part also. So these are the recommendations part we include that. So these are the charging sources. I already explained, like, yeah. So this is what are the BEV charging sources is much important that we explain. Yeah. Now another point is, quickly I like to touch upon is, now we'll take ICEV. ICV is like internal combustion engines, battery electric vehicles. Both need to be produced. For production, there will be carbon dioxide emissions. So in the research, we incorporated that part also. So you can see that for mid-size gasoline vehicle, mid-size BEV vehicle. So in production level also, electric vehicle will have 51% reduction in the carbon dioxide emission. Whereas in full-size vehicle, so there will be 53% reduction. This way, we came to the positive conclusion that so production of electric vehicle doesn't affect the CO2 emission, because actually there is a reduction in CO2 emission because of the production. So on this, yeah, one more point I forgot to say, like, yeah, in this policy recommendation we included another point, that is how we are handling the batteries, because batteries life cycle will be almost, presently it will be 4 to 6 years. How we are going to recycle it, so that part also incorporated there. So that is the thing. So the conclusion is overall, so we analyzed the overall electric buses and CO2 emissions, and we came for that. We came for the correlation. It is 0.79, and so we tried to we just in a conclusion we given like, so this we studied in European market. we could able to incorporate that in American and Asian market. So because we could able to see lot of similarities, but since it is evolving over a period of time, we could include that.